All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Mortgage Coach Sales Boomerang, No Borrower Left Behind Mastermind. That was a lot for one breath of air. Let's remember to get this live on Facebook. So Facebook folks, if you're watching this late, what's up? If you're watching this in YouTube, it's not too late to ask questions. We do monitor these and we will answer any questions you have. We always get questions, oh, I want the slides, and oh, can you get me a sample link to any of the information shared during this call? Those will all be down below. If you're watching this in YouTube, they'll be down below. So every Friday, we want to mastermind with top producers, but we also want to hear what you guys have to say. So please be active in this chat. With me today as my wingman and co-host, we have Todd Bookspan. What's up, Todd?
Not much. It's always fun to be here on a Friday. You know that, especially when we have a special guest that I admire a lot.
So we've got Tim Lamb. I've watched Tim grow as a mortgage professional for a long time. And, when I think of Tim, I think of intentional. I think of someone who's always evolving. He's gone from, oh, I want to have a YouTube presence to have a YouTube presence. Oh, I want to leverage social media. He's leveraging social media. He is a mortgage coach. He's a grandmaster mortgage coach. He really epitomizes what it is to be what I call a data-driven mortgage advisor. He is missing one weapon, but he's working on getting that weapon. Sales Boomerang. What's up, Tim?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, everybody out there. Looking forward to this call. Looking forward to it. Dave, thanks. And Todd for putting these together. This Friday productive deal was started way back when Darren Hardy got this thing started. That was years ago. I remember some of those very first calls. So thank you, gentlemen, for pouring into our industry.
Yeah, well, it's been 6 years. We do want to remind folks, we're getting close to the 1 month mark from the Modern Mortgage Summit. And I want to remind everybody, we're going to have a meeting of the Eagles, #1 loan officer in America, and all these other just extraordinary mortgage professionals are all going to be live in person at Las Vegas. We will be broadcasting that. So every year when we do the Modern Mortgage Summit, it is broadcasted live. We also have some baller real estate agents. We've got America's #1 realtor, Jason Mitchell, and just some incredible real estate professionals. Renee Rodriguez is going to be there co-hosting this with Todd and myself. It's the same price it's always been for virtual attendance. It's $100 to sign up virtually. And I do think we'll have some bulk tickets. I don't know if maybe we do already. We do have limited seats. So it's only the venue we're doing at is more of a training facility. So it's only got 60 seats. We've sold about half of them out. It's $2,500. If you do want to sign up, like I said, we do have some seats available. I do expect those to be gone soon. I would be surprised. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks. But you guys can still sign up for virtually. That does not sell out. Todd, do we have any branch licenses, like people who want to buy 10 of these, 25 of these? Do we have any way to do that?
Yeah, just email me, Todd, at Win by Noon, and I can facilitate anyone who wants to buy multiples, because certainly we'll offer discounts for large quantities. And then I think the biggest thing on the live event, and we're not advertising it, but for this community, I'm going to run a small mastermind on Friday after the event, because I really feel like it's great to go to an event, but it's really something different to actually implement what you learn. And so we're going to be doing an implementation morning afterwards. I think that's really where the magic happens, right? So you think about this, you can show up to these big cushy leather chairs. We'll have to get the video posted in the group on it, but it's a unique experience. You're going to be there. All the speakers are going to be there. You've got, I think from the real estate agent piece, think about that one too. Tristan Ahumada, he founded Lab Coach Agent. Spring Benson, #1 realtor at, Real Broker. Obviously, Jason Mitchell, '1 in the world. And so you've got some great real estate agents in there as well. But I think the magic is the fact that you're in the room with, 59 other people who are just like you, who are trying to have the best year in their mortgage business. I think a lot of people who've signed up have told me, hey, it's not really what I want to do in March, but it's what I need to do in March. I need to invest in myself, and I need to get around like-minded folks. And then in the same room are going to be the speakers, right? There's, a dozen plus rock stars in the mortgage space. And then you can kind of count maybe me, Dave, and Renee as fun people to hang out with. So I think it's just a good opportunity. We're going to, you'll be there in the morning. You'll have a, light breakfast with the group. You'll have lunch with the group. You'll watch the speakers with the group, and then we'll have happy hour afterwards at the location. So it's going to be a unique experience compared to any other event people go to. And transparently, the people who are already signed up are cool people in our community, cool friends. And I think that you should be there too.
All right, guys. So that's cool. I hadn't heard that you confirmed that Win by Noon was going to host a mastermind the day after. So I'm just pumped. I know that it's going to be an incredible day and a half of learning, a day and a half of inspiration, and a day and a half of like-minded, growth-minded, badass leaders in the mortgage business. So cool. So Tim, we hope to see you there. No pressure.
Pressure. I mean, come on. I think that should just be part of it. Tim's going to announce here at the end of the call whether or not he's going. So, we'll know whether.
Come on now. Let's not go there. It's already volunteer. Like, hey, come here and volunteer to give back to the industry. And now you got to buy a ticket at the same time. So, but if you're there, we'd love it.
I would love to just piggyback off of that. Last year, we did a Realtor event with that virtual play all day in the afternoon, all day long, and it was awesome. We had 50 agents in a room listening to that every day. And what I would recommend for everyone to do is have your follow-up strategy built out before the event happens. That was my failure last year. I got 50 agents into the room talking about all the great stuff that was happening, and then I didn't have a plan afterwards. So that's definitely my execution lack of it last year. And I want to make sure that everybody thinks about that. Not only do I got to get people in the seats and have a great day and execute, but then what are you going to do with follow-up stuff afterwards? What are the value adds afterwards to keep that momentum going for that great event?
Hey, real quick, what did you do to get 50 agents in your office for this event? What was the, just give us, I know this isn't what we're here to talk about, but I just want to hear a minute on your action plan to, host a Realtor office party mastermind with the Modern Mortgage and Real Estate Summit.
I kind of position it to be, if you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best. And if you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best. And I just said, hey, if you got an afternoon and you want to come listen to all of the agents, and I kind of put the bios together for the agents and kind of share that out. So I hit multiple different people, multiple different ways. You always talk about it, Dave, omni-channel. I did direct messages on Instagram. I did text messages. I sent out an email. I was kind of trying to get every angle possible. And the big message was, if you're going to be the best, you got to learn from the best. Join us for a great afternoon.
Would you mind, because I assume you're going to do that again this year, you're going to do it. Would you mind sharing some of the messaging that you do to promote that in our group? Because, we've sold over 10,000 tickets before. We were hoping to sell 10,000 tickets again this year. But the goal is to change lending, to change housing, and I do think this year, when you think of 34% of all mortgages in America start with 2% or 3%, and 80% start with 2, 3, or 4. So I do think this is a year where everyone in housing, real estate, mortgage need to huddle up on hey, how are we going to get these move-up home buyers to move up? And how are we going to bring more first-time home buyers into the market? What can we do to get out there and outreach in our communities to get more first-time home buyers in the market? So we want to have tens of thousands of real estate and mortgage professionals learning from each other. So you cool with sharing a little bit in the group?
Happy to do it. Yeah. I think that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today is how do you help your partners win in today's market? And I think that's a golden opportunity to start out the first quarter, wrapping up the first quarter in March with this Modern Mortgage Summit, helping them win with new strategies. So happy to help.
Well, let's go. How are you helping your partners win in this market? Let's have that conversation. And remember, everybody watching this live, questions and comments. Anyone watching this in YouTube recording, your questions and comments add value. Let's go. Oh, and remember, guys, there's this little reaction for anyone that's watching this in Zoom. You can let us know what you like and what you don't like. And then remember, everyone watching this in other social medias, oh, look at the love signs. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to use a sign in Facebook as well. Let's go, Tim. What do you got?
All right. So first thing that, as I was kind of preparing for this presentation, I was just thinking about this one simple word in 2023 for me is action. We have to put more action into your business than you ever have before. And here's a story that I just want to kind of tell to kind of get the premise set. For the last 2.5 years, I want to envision you sitting out in a boat, chilling, doing the mortgage business. And guess what's happening? All of the fish are currently jumping into the boat. There's so many fish, mortgages, opportunities, everything's coming at you and they're jumping into the boat. And you're sitting there not taking action, but you're still getting business because the business is basically just falling in your lap. And as an LO, you sat in the boat going, all right, what's the biggest fish that I can pull out of here right now? Because there's 37 of them to choose from. So I picked the easiest one and I put the hard ones by the side and the biggest loan amounts and all that kind of stuff. And we did that for so long. And our action was sitting in the boat, just kind of pulling in what we could get. Now the market obviously has changed, which everyone knows. And now you're sitting in the exact same boat, but there's no fish in that boat any longer. And guess what we've realized over the last 6 months is there's a little fishing pole that's sitting over to the edge of the boat and it's dusty and it hasn't been used lately. And maybe the string isn't quite right on the fishing stuff. I'm not a fisherman, but I'm using this analogy anyways. And that pole is now what the LO needs to go and grab. And if that is my analogy right now, is there's no longer fish jumping into the boat. You've got to go use the pole to attract new buyers and attract new real estate partners. And if you're not taking that action to do that, you're going to continue sitting in the boat with no fish. So that's what I wanted to start out with, is just massive action. Number one, my shirt today says, do the work. And I think that's what we forgot over the last couple of years, is doing a lot of the work in the business that helps us win. So that's kind of the premise. What do you think of that, Dave and Tom?
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. And, two actions that I'm going to really advocate and push everybody towards is making sure that you are a data-driven mortgage advisor. This is a compass. Todd and I are actually writing a LinkedIn article right now that will be up within a week or two that really breaks this down. Like, what are the skills and habits of a mortgage coach? What are the skills and habits of turning your database into a data bank? What are the skills, habits, and resources to know, your data and to educate consumers with data? And of course, know your own numbers and win by noon. So we're going to break this down, but here's 2 things that everybody should be doing. You should be the one going to real estate agents and letting them know about a problem. They know it's a problem, but they don't know crystal clear what the problem is that's new in housing, and just how many families have 2%, 3%, and 4% rates. And then you got to let them know how you're going to help solve that problem. Like, hey, I've got solutions that other loan officers don't have. Date the rate, marry the house. I can show your customers how to get into escrow, divorce rent versus own. You need to have those solutions. And then the other thing is getting first-time home buyers to move up. As an industry, we need to do a better job of creatively educating families. Like, every time a family has a kid graduate from high school or a college-age child, they should be like, creatively, how can we help our kid buy a duplex, a triplex, house hack? Like, families don't know how to help each other. Guys, we have a financial literacy crisis. We have an affordability crisis, and we need to generationally help each other get into home ownership faster and more creatively. So this will be a mission. This will be a topic all year long, but those are a couple ideas for you. So Todd, anything you want to say or ask before Tim shares exactly what he's doing and how he's doing it?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I got invited to be part of a mastermind of half a dozen young, badass leaders in the real estate world. They're all over the country, and they are all building and scaling real estate teams. Some of them are just starting out. 2 of them actually own brokerages. One has 30 people on his team right now. He just fired 20 people. And they're really badasses. It was kind of interesting yesterday, the conversations that they had, because they said that they found that a lot of people they're interviewing are a product of the market, was the term they used. And I thought that was interesting. They basically said, because they kicked ass the last 2 years, by doing nothing, and they're not doing what Tim's talking about. They're not putting their poles back in the water now, and they're not working hard. And so I think when you look at the statistics, I think that's what's mattered. They said that 35% of people, and I don't know if this is accurate, didn't renew according to NAR their licenses this year. And they said that 23% of licensed people here in Arizona are out of 63,000, 23% actually got licensed after 2020. So a huge percentage of people are new and just don't know the market. And so I think it's an opportunity for you when you're putting your poll out there is to figure out how can I help them learn how to work in a market like this. And those of you who are long-term survivors of this industry, you know how to do it. So that's a perfect opportunity to do what Tim's talking about.
So one more thing, Tim, before you go, I started off the year with action being my word. So I came into January 1, action. And I'm not saying the word I picked is better. It's better for me, because I started like first week, hey, I'm taking action. I'm hustling, I'm working. And I think, I don't know if it was the second or third week, and my executive assistant, Paul, will know this. I'm like, you know what? I'm taking more action than ever before, but I was actually getting overwhelmed. And I adjusted my word of the year to better. I need to take action, but I need to take better action. I need to, do better with my skills. I also found like it's still a rough year. I mean, there's still curveballs coming in, and it's very easy to get bitter. Like I am an optimist, but it's never been easy to get bitter about things. So I just figured, you know what, better. I'm gonna better is my word of the year. So what is your word of the year? Put that in chat just to make sure. Like just I always ask, where are you coming from? That's super easy. Like if you have a word of the year, what's your word of the year? Your phrase of the year, your focus of the year. We got intentional. So Todd's not changing. He came into the year with intentional, and like he's locked in. Implement. Way to go, John. Give us a few more words, and Tim, take it away. You've got a playbook, you've got some slides, you got some thoughts. While these words are coming in, share what you're doing to help agents win.
I'll dive a little bit into the action word for me. So I just felt like me personally, I had an action hangover. Like I was so reactive to the business that was coming in that I wasn't taking the proactive action that I needed to. So I kind of had this hangover effect, like, okay, I need to get back into doing that. And you'll see my results for the entire year. My results started out really good at the beginning of last year and then ended really low. So some of the worst years or months that I've had because I wasn't taking that action. That's why I determined that 2023 needed to be the action year. And the most important thing that I want people to consider is this. Are we measuring the right thing in the mortgage space right now? We're measuring how many loans did I close and my volume was X amount of dollars. I treat that as kind of a lagging indicator. What I would love for you to do is consider measuring the leading indicators. How many calls am I making? How many face-to-face meetings am I having? How many coffees am I taking? How many people am I trying to help? Because if we're doing really good at that stuff, those action items, the lagging indicators will naturally come. And if we don't get the results at the end, then whatever we're doing at the beginning, as Dave said, we've got to get better at those things. So as you're having those calls, do what I call a debrief. A couple minutes after the call, what went really great and what do I need to improve on? Was there a better question that I should have asked? Was there more data that I needed to know? Was there something different that I could have prolonged that conversation or had more impact on that conversation? So as you're doing those action items, don't repeat the same action item. If it isn't getting the results that you want, do a quick little debrief and say, all right, how did that go? What do I need to work on? Is it scripting? Is it dialogue? Do I need to go back to the Phil Jones interview that you did a couple of weeks ago, Dave, that was rock star? If you need to go back to that, do that and figure out what are those things that I need to improve on in order to get better. So leading indicators is the action for me. The lagging indicators are the results that you get from taking those actions. And if you're not taking the actions, those results are not going to happen.
So real quick, by the way, guys, that interview with Phil Jones was Friday last week. So it was 1 week ago today, and it's been viewed 1,400 times. We haven't even really put a lot of special promotion around it. It was epic. I mean, it was, absolutely one of the best interviews this year, but it was one of the all-time best interviews. I put it in both playlists, and I would make this a required watch for all mortgage coaches. I've had a number of people, I don't think Lori would mind me saying this, but Lori Richardson is someone that you know pretty well, Todd. And check out this text. I just listened to the interview you did with, Phil Jones. It was probably one of the best interviews I've heard in 10 years. Thank you for all you do in the community. And Josh Mettle was so blown away with it that he is gonna he's taking notes, he's turning it into a training. And he actually asked me to attend a training for his company next week to train on that. So I don't want people to fly by that Phil Jones interview and just we'll put a link down below. It is a must watch if you are a mortgage coach. His scripting, Denise Donahue reached out to me over the weekend. So it was on Saturday. She's like, oh my God, I got so much value to that. I actually asked her, what do you think would be a good headline? And she came up with a headline, exactly what to say to realtors and clients right now. So thank you, Denise, for that hook and headline. And back to you, my brother.
I think Todd's mentioned this before. The better questions that you ask, the more impact you're going to have in this space and the better results you're going to have. And Phil Jones was a master at taking your questions and just tweaking it and making it look totally different and has way more impact. So definitely go back to look at that.
How did you like his question sequence for Sales Boomerang alerts? Were you kind of jealous that you don't have Sales Boomerang yet?
I was very jealous. I don't have Sales Boomerang based on those dialogues. Yes, exactly.
We'll fix that soon.
Yeah.
All right.
And another thing that I just want you to be thinking about as LOs in this space is everything that we should be working on action-wise this year is how do we help our partners win in this market? So as we're doing videos, I know I saw a bunch of posts like the new loan level price adjustments changing. That doesn't mean anything to a real estate agent. How does that change their business? How does that impact what they can qualify for? What can we do from a content perspective to be able to share that with them so that way they know how to improve their business? So the filter that I'm utilizing this year and hope you maybe adopt as well is how can I help my agent partners win? And what I would love to get into is I've got a model that I've kind of been building my business around for a while now. So I just want to share my screen here and I call it the mortgage wheel. Can you see that, Dave and Todd, on the page there?
We do.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right, cool.
And remember, guys, we will get this presentation from you and any links that Tim shares. They'll be down below in show notes. So check it. Stay tuned.
So what I call the mortgage wheel, and I kind of put this in place because I felt like I had a lot of flat tires in my business, that I wasn't running an optimally smooth business. So I wanted to really dive into it. So I created this model called the Q4 model. Here's essentially what it looks like. And I just want to walk everybody through this really quickly, and then we can dive into what it looks like. So obviously you can see you as the LO are in the center of the wheel. You're the one that's driving the car, making everything happen. And I think we got 4 skill sets that we really got to dive into, or 4 action items that we got to dive into. Upper left-hand corner there, what are we doing right now to attract more people into our tribe? Whether it's agent partners, CPA, financial planners, what action are you taking to get yourself into the market? No longer can you be a secret agent or a secret LO sitting in that boat waiting for the fish to jump into it. You've got to be attracting more people into your business. Upper right-hand corner there, we've got conversion, sales, and as Dave says, the wow presentation. What are we doing between contact to contract that's going to help with your conversion rate? What things are we doing to wow the member or the client that you're working with, wow the agents that are involved in the transaction, and have a higher conversion rate? And then as we transition to the lower right-hand corner, this is all about execution and operations. What are you doing to impact the relationship while your file is going from contract to closing? What are the pieces? What are the things that you're doing? And then obviously last quarter there, lower left-hand corner is retention. What are we doing to have consumers come back to us and refer us more people after they've closed. And you can kind of see between Q3 and Q4 on the bottom, I've got a vertical line that says becomes a client. In my mind, all of the other stuff is not as important as that when they become a client between Q3 and Q4 as we go through this process. So we can dive into each one of these quadrants, but Dave, Todd, what do you think about this model here of just like visually putting something together as far as skill sets that each LO has to take action on and develop their skills in?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's brilliant. I love the simplicity of it. I love the way you created a line, becomes a client. I do want to call out, I don't remember who it was that I interviewed, but they said, I really don't consider someone a customer until they've given me a referral. And so I do think it might be kind of neat to have another little line somewhere in the, well, and by the way, that I got a referral could happen during process. I mean, one of the all-time best strategies I've ever heard was from Jeremy Forcier, and how he asked every single client during the process of a loan for a referral. And but whether you got a referral in process or whether you got a referral after process, I think that's a magic moment. I think that is something that you should strive for, to the point where is someone, I guess they are a customer if you close their loan, technically. But if you really made it like, I do not consider this person locked in and a client for life until I've got a referral, and I somehow delineated it. So not saying you need to edit this mortgage wheel, but I just want everyone, as they're seeing this, that's especially important in this market. We'll put a little link. I think I have like a 2 or 3 minute clip. Well, it's not a clip. It's Jeremy's full script on how Jeremy asked for referrals during the process. We will put that in here. I just want to emphasize that is a magic moment. And then of course, delivering a total cost analysis within quadrant 2. Like, if you aren't delivering a total cost analysis in quadrant 2, you're not optimizing your WOW. And then if you're not delivering an annual review in quadrant 4, you're not doing everything you can to optimize that client. So I'm looking forward to digging into this. Anything you want to say, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I would throw in a couple of things. Number one is go back to where Tim started the conversation, right? You're in a boat and you want to have all the fish jumping in, right? So you got to take action. And so first off, we talked about, measuring not just your results, but your lead indicators. So I don't really pitch win by noon very often, but just know that's a win by noon is a tool to measure hold yourself accountable to your lead measures. And number two is think about all these things that we're talking about here, right? If you watch the Phil Jones interview, when you take this wheel, all this stuff applies to conversations that you can have to make your real estate agents better, right? Is you're always worried about what to say to real estate agents. And really what you're saying to real estate agents is you're saying, hey, how can I help you? Where are you stuck? And guess what? They're stuck in the same place as you may be stuck. And it's all the things that Tim has talked about. So Tim is just on fire, giving you all the things that you need to get better conversations with your real estate agents. So keep going, Tim. This is awesome.
I love it. All right. So I was going to piggyback on kind of what Dave said there. All 4 of these quadrants, you can use the total cost analysis and the MortgageCoach Edge product. So on the attract side of things, I look at that as how can I use the TCA or strategies for my agent partners on strategies, rent versus owning, the buy down, permanent buy down, 3-2-1 buy down. That for me is an attract strategy because I'm intentionally reaching out to agents to help them understand what the buy down strategy is and maybe what that rent versus own is. So that way I can add value to their world. And then they're like, all right, Tim Lamb or whoever the LO is, they're doing something different than everybody else is. So you can use TCA to go out and attract clients through strategies. In the WOW session, obviously that is TCA. I call it a mortgage options report. And I want to thank Dan Keller for that. I completely stole that from him, which I love to rip off and duplicate other things in people's business and leverage it into my own. So I call it a mortgage options report. And I use that in quadrant number 2 to separate myself. 3, that's kind of a status update. You can use the TCA to say, all right, your final numbers are this in quadrant 3. Quadrant 4, retention, annual reviews. One of the things that I'll get to is I do the power of $100 TCA in the retention side of things. Win by noon. Pick a quadrant. You can put win by noon into all of those. How much action are you taking with meetings and appointments and lunches, whatever it is? You can track that in win by noon. Conversions, the numbers in section quadrant number 2, win by noon. 3, win by noon. How am I making my stuff put together and so forth? So retention, win by noon, and TCA can be plugged into all 4 of these quadrants. And that could help those conversion numbers. That can help that wow. That can help that experience to be able to put that together. So let's go dive into the next quadrant. Let's just break this down individually for some attract stuff. And I want to, we titled this kind of brilliant basics. So I'm going to share some simple things that are working, that have worked forever. But the main question is, are you doing them and are you executing them? So I just wrote down a quick couple things. Number 1, I'd like to reintroduce people to stamps and envelopes. The thank you note has not gone anywhere. Home sweet home, whatever it is. Why aren't we sending out more notes to everybody that's involved in the transaction? Attracting with a thank you note or a welcome note or a congratulations note to all the people that you're connected with, whether they're CPAs, financial planners. A thank you note is fabulous. Great way to connect yourself with it. There you go, Todd, we got it. And here's the question I want to ask you. When you receive a thank you note, what do you do with it? Like, I can't throw them away. Like, I feel guilty. Like, I can't throw away Todd's thank you note that he sent to me if he ever would send me one. But here's a stack of thank you notes that I've gotten over the last 6 months. And here it is right here. You don't throw them away. So separate yourself from everybody else by getting back into the old habit of buying stamps and writing thank you notes out. Such a simple way to do it in the business. Todd, did you have something to say there as you were holding up your?
I just laughed because I interviewed 5 realtors yesterday, and I brought home my thank you cards, and I suck at thank you notes. And it's funny because it's one of the things that has always been in the real estate agent version of Win by Noon for them, but we put into the LO version of it at request of the actual few LOs in the mortgage industry that send them. So good for you for doing it. And I'm terrible at it. My handwriting stinks, but guess what? Same thing. I've got a big stack of them in my desk drawer and got some up on my counter here behind me that are important to me. And so you all know it. So we should just all do it.
Simple, brilliant, basic strategy to put it together, and love that. And like I said, if no one's doing it, that's one way for you to separate yourself from everybody else in the space right now. Open houses obviously are a tremendous opportunity for you to reach out on Saturday or Sunday and walk into an open house and introduce yourself to it. Old school strategy again, brilliant basics. But are you doing it? And are you introducing the TCA and so forth at that open house survival guide? Go back to taking the survival guide, a bottle of water, a cookie, a brownie, a bag with some of your information into it, and connecting with agents on that side of things. In my mind, that gets you a warm introduction, as well as it shows that you're working, that you're actually out there hustling, getting the business put together. Other attract strategies that I'm just throwing in here is obviously social media and attracting agents on the social media side of things. I just saw that social media for me is a great thing. And one thing that I want you to be thinking about is social media is a two-way street. You cannot just put stuff out there and assume that people are going to come back to you. You've got to use social media and engage and post and like and follow and comment on other people's stuff. So that way it's a two-way street on social media for you. And I see Deborah Bird maybe just joined us here. And that is
social media out there in the atmosphere, and she magically appeared.
Shocker. It's amazing how that happens. I mentioned social media and then she shows up. That's cool. But it's a two-way street. We've got to be intentional. And here's a little hack for you is within Instagram, Deborah confirmed this for me, but if you're engaging on someone else's post and their type of stuff, they're more likely to see your next post that goes out. So if you're intentionally following and commenting on the top 20 agents in your market, and now you're being strong on the social media side of things, there's a more higher likelihood that they're going to see your stuff because you're being engaged on the social media platforms. Deborah, am I accurate on that statement?
You are. And I think it's important to just remember that, social media is meant to be social. So it still ranks, yes, based off interest of people, but also the fact that if you have a social relationship. So if you DM, story, comment, like and comment on each other's posts, then yes, the system thinks you guys are in relationship together. And so you'll probably want to see each other's content.
Love it. And that's an intentional strategy that you can put together every day, guys. If you're commenting and following and liking the top agents in your area, or the top real estate, or excuse me, the attorneys or CPAs, whoever your target audience is, the more likelihood that they're going to see your stuff if you're following them and doing what else they're doing on that side of things. Any thoughts or anything, Todd or Dave? Do you want me to just keep rolling here?
Dude, you're killing it. Just keep it rolling. One question did come in. I don't know the name of the person, but they had asked, can you describe more of what is power of $100?
I'll get it to you in quadrant 4 when we get there.
Okay, we'll get there. Keep the questions coming. There's no bad ones.
Cool. All right. In quadrant number 2, this is where I kind of get into a couple different strategies that I just wanted to throw out that have been working for me. Number 1, back to the handwritten thank you notes. Every opportunity, whether it comes together or not, I'm sending a thank you note to the agent as well as the consumer that did that application with me. Again, I'm trying to set myself apart from every other LO that's out there. And if they get a thank you card from me at their home and they don't get it from another LO, maybe that's just a little thing that puts me ahead of everybody else. And the agent gets a thank you note for the referral, whether it goes forward or not, is another thing that I consistently do. So back to those handwritten thank you notes. Again, brilliant basics, simple stuff, but trying to separate yourself from everybody else. In this quadrant, I use the MortgageCoach TCA. I call it, again, a mortgage options report. I always add a strategy called +1. All right. And what I do with this +1 strategy is, no matter what the consumer asks me, they ask me for a 30-year fixed rate loan with 20% down, a standard scenario, I'm always giving them at least one more option to consider, or one more different loan product to consider. Not that they're necessarily going to choose that option, but I want to separate myself from everybody else. Everybody else is delivering them the 30-year fixed with 20% down. I may deliver them the 30-year fixed, but I'm also going to deliver them a 25-year fixed rate loan. Or I'm going to deliver them, hey, 10% down, and let's take the other 10% and pay off the 2 credit cards that you have, and you have a net result better. So I take that strategy, I just call it +1. I'm always going to add one more thing into the TCA to get the consumer thinking, this guy's a little bit different than everybody else. What else am I missing if I don't utilize him in this transaction? Any thoughts on that +1 strategy, Dave and Todd?
You're killing it. I want to have you unpack the whole thing. I do have some questions, so, unpack it and leave us some time to do some Q&A around it.
All right, cool. All right, so 2 other things that I do in this contact to closing is a weekly call that's blocked in my calendar to anyone that's pre-qualified and shopping. I call the buyer's agent and the buyer every week, consistent thing. Again, another brilliant basics that everybody's heard of. But here are the important questions that you need to be asking the buyer in the transaction that's pre-qualified. Number 1, how is the search going for you buying your first home? Because I want to get some emotion. I want to get some feelings into the contact to figure out, are they nervous? Are they excited? Are they frustrated? Whatever it is. So that way I can help them through whatever that challenge is that they may have. And more importantly, I can share that context with their agent to be able to say, hey, Susie's really concerned. She's getting concerned about interest rates, whatever it is. And now we look like a partnership to be able to help out the client come back and be stable and clear and confident in what they're doing. Another great question to ask as you're doing these updates: has anything changed that I need to know about? And when you ask that question, you're going to get a lot of different answers. Oh, I quit my job yesterday and start my new job a month from now. And you're like, goodness gracious, I'm so glad that I asked that question, because that obviously impacts your qualification. Or I bought a new car, or whatever it is. So if you ask that question, has anything else changed in this process? Dave, back to what you talked about, current client referrals that Jeremy Forcier lives and breathes on. The question is, who else do you know that's a first-time home buyer just like you that's thinking about buying in the next 6 months? So who else do you know that's a first-time home buyer just like you? Insert whoever they are, move-up buyer, construction buyer, that's just like you, that's thinking about buying or selling in the next 6 months.
Love it.
If they have someone, great. If not, you're setting the seed for referrals. And here's a brilliant basic that I want you to think about. Simple question. Are you asking for referrals? And I think if we did a poll, I would assume most people are not asking for the referrals and setting up that stage that, hey, my business is built through referrals. So number one action item for me this year, I'm going to ask more for referrals multiple times throughout the transaction. So those 3 questions again on my pre-qual update weekly deal is, how is the search going? Trying to get their feelings, trying to get their emotions, letting the agent know what's going on. Has anything changed that I should know about that it would impact the pre-qualification or you buying a house? And who else do you know that's just like you that's thinking about buying in the next 6 months? Sound good so far? Anything on that, guys?
Killing it, bro. Keep questions coming from the audience, and Deborah and Todd, pop in anytime with comments or questions.
All I'll say is you called it the brilliant basics. You're all looking for scripts, and that's just an easy script where you don't feel cheesy asking for a referral. And so, yeah, just keep rolling, Tim. We want to make sure you get through the whole presentation before this clock chimes in 19 minutes.
All right, sounds good. All right, one other thing here that I do is just a little tweak that has worked really well for me. Go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
I was going to say, try to get through it in 10 minutes so we do have some time for some Q&A.
All right, love it. All right, so in quadrant 2, as I'm meeting with the face-to-face with the borrower, what I love to do at the end of the conversation is do a call with the agent. So I pick up my phone, I call the agent, talk to them and say, hey, I'm sitting in front of Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I would love to give you an update on what's going on with the transaction. Then I lay my phone on the desk, put it on speaker, and I'm like, all right, Susie, the agent, the clients are all there. We have a conversation about what they're pre-qualified for, what the purchase price is, what the down payment is, do they need seller paid closing costs? And I basically wrap a bow around the financing that they're putting together on the new house. And I might be like, hey, they really are pre-qualified at $350. That's where they love. That's their perfect price, but they could go to $375 or $400 if they wanted to, but to get them exactly what they're looking for, $350 is our price. And here's the value question that I ask every time on there. Mr. and Mrs. Clients, was this a valuable spend of your time meeting with me face-to-face about walking through the mortgage process? And every time they say yes, and the agent hears that on the phone. So I'm reinforcing my ability as a loan officer with their clients by asking that question. And I always ask, is there any additional things that we didn't cover that we hope that you would cover today? And they're always like, no, we got everything. We're ready to go. And I'm like, agent, all right, great. I'm going to follow up with your pre-qualification letter. I'll send that over to you. These guys are ready to go. Go shopping. A little tweak into your process potentially. Call the agent while they're in your office, or if they're on the phone pre-qual, do a joint call with all 3 of them to get that communication dialed in. How many calls have you guys gotten as LOs? Like, what kind of financing are they doing? How much money do they need down? Or is there seller paid closing costs? Put that to rest right out of the gate. And then you can also get reinforced that you're a valuable piece of the puzzle going forward. All right, let's move on to quadrant 3, execution and operations. So you can kind of see a white line between 2 and 3 there. I want to make sure this is a handoff. We got to let our teams know, hey, Susie, now my assistant, is also going to be in communication with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm adding a member to our team to execute on this transaction going forward. I chat with Susie at least every day about your transaction, but you may get a call from your LOA or the processor in this process, and set that up so that way your clients are not scared or nervous about Susie calling and asking for a W-2 or whatever it may be. Add them to your team to be able to get it put together. Another weekly update that I do in this transaction here is this. I block out Wednesday mornings. I call the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the listing agent on all of these transactions. Number 1, here are your questions when you pick up the phone with them. Buyer, you call first. How are you feeling about the process? I want to get the emotions. I want to figure out if they're scared or nervous or whatever it is. I want to figure out question number 1. How are you feeling about the process? Number 2, I give them a status update on what's going on in the transaction. Your financing is due next week. The appraisal is ordered. We know the closing date's the 22nd. Just give them a status update on what's going on. Because if they're a first-time home buyer, They don't know what the next step is. We've done this 100 times, 1,000 times. In their world, if nothing's happening and they don't know what the next step is, they're concerned or nervous and they don't know exactly what's going on. Question number 3, it's going to sound very familiar here. Has anything changed with the transaction that I need to know about? Closing date changes 1 day. That's a big deal in our world, right? With compliance stuff and all the stuff that we need to do. Oh, by the way, I bought a car, or by the way, I spent $5,000 to fix my car and I have less of a down payment. I want to know every week if there's anything changing with that transaction. And then I always ask, opportunity again, Dave, for referrals. Can I ask you a favor? 100 out of 100, they say yes. And then you go into the script. Do you know anyone that's someone just like you, that's a first-time home buyer thinking about buying or selling that I could reach out to? Again, repetitively building into that referral script and dialogue into the transaction. Do the exact same thing with the buyer's agent and the listing agent. All right. And I want to give you a word of caution here. The first time, if you implement this into your business, the first time you make these calls, the agents are going to be freaked out. And here's why. No LO ever calls with good news. They only call with, it didn't appraise, or we got to push the closing date back, or the underwriter didn't like this. So when you start making these calls, the agent's going to be like, what's wrong with my deal at 123 Main Street? And until you get into a rhythm with them, and then ask them the exact same 3 questions. How's everything going with this transaction? Are the buyers good on what's happening? Provide them a status update of what's going on. Has anything changed? How many times have we got an inspection report where they did instead of doing the repairs, they added $2,000 in seller pay closing costs. And they were like, oh man, I got to get that back to underwriting. So I need to know that as I'm going through the process. And then you can ask for referrals. Mr. Buyer's agent, who have you showed properties to in the last 7 days that isn't pre-qualified with me yet? I would love to get a hold of those borrowers and part that process put together. And on a listing agent, same type of thing. And this is really valuable for the listing agent because in most cases, you don't know the listing agent necessarily, but you know the buyer's agent. So this gives you a reason every week to give them a call and give them a status update. And I've generated so much opportunities out of that call just on the weekly side of things to be able to put it together.
Hey,
all right, go ahead.
I want to get into the retention, but I want to make sure before we run out of time that you show at least one total cost analysis that you're using, within one of these. So if you want to do retention and then do that, but I always try to make sure, that point of sale experience is showcased within a session. So you'll do that now, or you want to do retention first?
Let me do retention really quick. I'll just hit on a couple of things and I'll jump into a TCA. All right. So one conversation I would love to add into your scripting is what I call the comeback interest rate. Meaning we're locking you at 6% today. What's the number where I want you to, where you want me to come back to you and say, hey, we should refinance? So set that expectation when they become a client. I'm going to watch and I'm going to monitor this. And if rates ever get to here, and I know Sales Boomerang can also help out with that, but what's that comeback interest rate? So we can come back and work and save you some money on that side of things. And just some simple stuff in here that I'll bring up a TCA. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to bring up.
Tim, how do you manage that? So say all your clients say a different number. I mean,
I put it in, I've got simple. I put it in an Excel spreadsheet and I monitor that Excel spreadsheet with their target rate.
So guys, we have a better way to do that. We'll share that in a minute. But guys, that could be automated. Not only can you just automatically have it happen, but you can have the total cost analysis automatically created. I saw Spencer jump up. Spencer, let's let Tim share a TCA. Everyone, Spencer Schultz is a growth strategist with MortgageCoach Sales Boomerang. He is, for this year, going to be helping me moderate and run these classes. So Spencer, be ready to say something in a few minutes on how people can get trained up. But show us what you got here, Tim.
So this is the TCA that I use in my retention quadrant, and I send this out to the consumer, and I just call it the power of $100. And it's a simple process, guys, brilliant basics. After they close on their house, I update their TCA with all of their current information. And then I just do a video that says, hey, Mr. Jones, if you pay an extra $100 a month, you're going to pay this loan off in 20.65 years. If you pay an extra $200 a month, Here's paying it off in 24.17, 300, then you're paying it off in 22 years. Simple, basic strategy. But I agree with you, Dave. There's financial literacy problems in this world, and they don't know this. They really don't know this. And how cool is this to send out that TCA, copy your agent on it, so that way they see that you're showing value. So this is what I call the power of $100 TCA that I send out. Super simple, super strategy, but it works really, really well.
So stop sharing your screen real quick. So guys, we will have a link down below to this, but this type of value, this is where you're going from being a transactional loan officer. And Spencer, jump on camera here in a minute, or jump on now if you don't mind. But this is where you go from being a real value provider to a consumer, and it will help you get first-time home buyers because you're giving value to that family. So you're going to be better positioned when you hear of a family, maybe through a sales boomerang alert, that graduated from high school, college. You're going to be able to anticipate, hey, in this family, might be a first-time home buyer. Let's make sure we bring them a rent versus own and talk about, how to get into home ownership faster and easier. Spencer, I want to make sure, the community gets to know you a little bit more. If you could tell everyone, how they can get trained up on Sales Boomerang, Mortgage Coach, any resources that you think relate to this call.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, we have so many interviews. It's a pleasure to hop on with everyone. Thanks for having me. And so many interviews like these are a great place to start. In my own sphere, I simply put these on in the background while I'm working. I listen to a couple podcasts for fun, try and pull one piece of information. Absolutely. But I'm going to drop some links below where you can find demo, you can find training as well. We do global Sales Boomerang trainings every single Tuesday at 3:30 Eastern. We start with a 101, 201, and 301. That's Sales Boomerang University. And then we have a market relevant session every final Tuesday of the month, or the fourth Tuesday of the month as well. So I'm going to put the link to that. Those are recorded. You can view those at your own pace, or you can join me every single Tuesday at 3:30 to dive deeper into how to turn that beautiful database into a living, breathing organism that's going to have that cyclical pipeline. I like to think of it as creating a hydroelectric pipeline. You just keep on putting in more leads, more funded deals. That wheel keeps spinning stronger because you're on top of your pipeline and all that good stuff. So really excited to be here and super fired up. One thing I wanted to hit on as well, you made a really great point, Tim. Usually when a realtor gets a call from an LO, it's always bad news, except if you have a Sales Boomerang alert that is going to be pertinent information to that realtor and lets them know that they have a relevant conversation at hand that they could provide more insight into, and a little bit of insight into that client situation as well. So that's how we're really trying to flip the script for the first time in the mortgage industry, where we are going to be bringing them referrals. What if you're to bring a realtor 10 deals, 10 alerts in a month, potentially, that they could have that conversation with? This is the first time in the industry that you're able to really have that kind of value proposition for a referral partner, and not even just realtors, but also our, financial advisor friends, also our accountants, also our attorneys, and all that good stuff as well. So definitely going to drop some links for you guys for some global training, but this has been really powerful and excited to be here.
All right, guys, if you have questions for Spencer, put them down below. If you have topics that you want us to cover in the future, let's go. Todd, and then I'm going to go to you, Deborah. Any questions or comments for Tim so far?
Well, no, I'm just pointing out how Tim has walked you through what I would call a complete process to be a great loan officer. And he called it the brilliant basics. And so, I just love, Tim, that you're coming in here and sharing the system. And so I would just look at your system that you currently have and see, okay, what did Tim talk about? What is a script he used, or a point of contact that he made that I can add into my system, and just add in one at a time over the next few weeks. And then you'll be a complete loan officer like Tim is.
I think we almost make it a February challenge of, even if you just implemented the 2, asking for the referral from the client. Like, I loved your scripting on that, on who do you know that's just like you. And also the question that you asked to the buyer's agent. If you just implemented those 2 things within your current process and you track it in your Win by Noon planner for the month of February, and just track it and see what it does for you. I know it's scary. It could be awkward. Sometimes we're not good at asking for the referrals, but we all want the business. We need the business. The families need the loan officer that's going to give them better advice. All I would ask of you who are listening is, will you take that commitment and try it, and try something different for the month of February? Let's just make it a challenge.
All right, guys. So I'm going to share a few of my closing thoughts, and then we'll kind of go around the room on closing thoughts. So I have been at the IMB event for 3 days this week in Coronado, and there were, hundreds of executives. It was put on by the MBA. It's Independent Mortgage Bankers event. It's the big annual event. This picture is with Eric Wiley. He's one of the co-owners of Pac Res, great company in Portland. Couple things. So one, the sentiment was we're either at the bottom or really close to the bottom. So there was a lot of optimism. This is going to be a better year. This particular post in LinkedIn was, we had a walking meeting. Eric and I actually had a 30-minute meeting just scheduled, where he did the typical trade show, sit somewhere and talk for 30 minutes. We'd catch up for 15 and then I'd sell him for 15. But we took a 1-hour walking meeting along the beach. And it was insane. Like it was a great connection. We learned from each other. We got inspired from each other. We both got business ideas. Me as the sales guy in the meeting, I had a great connection, great experience with them. So I want to push everybody in Mortgage Coach land, walking meetings, walk and talk with realtors. I guarantee, maybe this isn't the kind of meeting you do at the first time date with a realtor, but you've got realtors that would love to go take a walk. So I'm going to push everybody in the community. Let's I told my team afterwards, when I'm at events, I want a 6:30 a.m. or a 7 a.m. walk and talk meeting with an executive and a breakfast meeting. I mean, that's always my thing. I always want a breakfast meeting. So that was one push I wanted to get out as a closing thought. Number two, I want to remind y'all, savageinsights.com is just a link of value. So for me, Dave Savage, Chief Innovation Officer, I'm always going to have a link to what I think is the latest and greatest piece of content. That's why I've got this Phil M. Jones link at the top. Thank you, Deborah Bird, for making that happen. Deborah made it happen. I've got this, top 6 megatrends of $100 million producers. Of course, here's a place to sign up for the Modern Mortgage Summit. If you're new to this community, here's a place to, if you don't have work for a company that has Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach, get a demo. And if you want to have a demo or a strategy session around Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach, go here. Of course, if you want to wear a shirt like the one I have on or the one Todd has on, go to the
one Deborah has on.
Yeah. Go to the Win by Noon store. Of course, I have links to the Mortgage Coach and the Sales Boomerang shirts. But
Come on, Tim, you're slacking. Where's your gear?
I know I got it, but I just thought my shirt "Do the Work" was appropriate for the call today, so I didn't want to wear anything else.
Heck yeah.
So Tim, I'm going to give you closing thought before Todd and Deb operate. They've always got like the taking action closing thought. So anything you have before we wrap this up?
I'll just leave a couple quick things. Number one, success is 1 degree at a time. We continually look for these big, shiny, massive action items that we've got to take. It may be one thank you note that leads you to a new relationship. It may be one better question that leads you to a better relationship. Maybe it's one extra TCA that you do with extra value in it that gets you that deal, that gets you the realtor to put it together. So don't think of success as this giant movement. It's these little tiny tweaks that you implement over and over that make a successful LO. And what I hope everyone...
Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to say.
I hope everyone meets our friend this year, which is a Darren Hardy quote, which is Big Mo. I hope everyone puts in these action items to build momentum in your business, that when you catch Big Mo, which is Mr. Momentum, and that just starts snowballing your business. But if we don't take those 1 degree separate action items, we'll never catch Big Mo. And the end of the year, you're going to look back and go, that was not the most successful year that I had. So keep taking it. And I want to leave you with one quote. Are you going to back down from this market, or are you going to double down with your actions?
Deborah, a minute or less than Todd. That was spectacular, by the way. That was a great.
I know, like, how do you go after that? I just want to thank you, Tim. I know we've personally met a couple times, and I just appreciate you jumping on here and sharing your wisdom and your coaching. And you've helped me a lot with behind the scenes with just Tom Ferry and even Phil Jones. And I encourage all of you. I don't know if Tim's going to join the Nerd and the Bird yet, but we have already committed to April doing the 2-day certification with Phil Jones in New York. So I'm super pumped. If you guys want more info or want the link for that, I encourage you to join us.
You know, it's funny. I interviewed a realtor yesterday who's a certified Phil Jones person. And what I would say to kind of sum it up is a couple of things. I mean, truly, I could spend probably literally 5 minutes saying all of my top takeaways, but I think really start with where Tim started, right? You got to put your fish into the water and you got to take action. And I would really focus on one of the first things he said, which is measuring your lead indicators, right? Because if you're going to do his quote, which was, are you going to back down from your market, or are you going to double down? Deborah and I interviewed a realtor who tracks his lead indicators, and it took 3 times as many meetings or conversations or face-to-face meetings with a client in order to get an appointment last year. And so he had to face that decision from Q1 to Q4. Was he going to actually make only 1/3 of the income that he set as a goal, or was he going to work 3 times harder? And the bottom line is, if you're not measuring, then you're not going to figure out what you have to do today to hit your goal at the end of the year. So I would jump on that lead indicator idea ASAP.
So here's my closing thought. It's a play off of Tim's. I finished the audio book of David Goggins' second book called Never Finished today. And I will tell you, it was extraordinary. I mean, I thought You Can't Hurt Me was amazing. I actually think this might have been better, although it was just insane how good this audiobook was. Super motivating. It was over 11 hours. It's taken me a week or two to get through it. But one of my biggest takeaways from listening to him, and this is a man that finished a 240-mile race. So imagine running 240 miles and has ran countless 100-mile races, and, you know, is a SEAL. I mean, I'm not going to list off everything he's done because it would take too much time. But he always just said, can I take one more step? Can I take one more step? So think about it, just one more step. Can I take one more step? So it's really a nice play off of what Tim's closing thought was. And it's sometimes not just doing another task. It's not another TCA. It's just one more step. And this is a year where we gotta push ourselves. It's not going to be a super easy year, but it is a year where we can gain market share. We can be better, not bitter, and hope you got value from this hour mastermind. Todd, Deborah, you're amazing. Tim, we really appreciate you. Todd is sneezing. If anyone can't see it, I can.
I muted myself so no one would see my sneeze.
Hey, last thing, you know, it is a big football weekend. First of all, I love every team in the playoffs right now. And I have like a reason why I would love to see every team win. My favorite team, the Broncos, is out of the running, but I'm going for the 49ers. If anyone can see,
I thought we were friends, Dave. Look at this. I got this when I walked into the Eagles game last week. I'll do a little plug for Verizon.
Dave, did you know that Jeff Zimper's nephew is Purdy?
Is what?
Purdy, the quarterback.
No way.
Yes.
That's so rad. So now I got another reason.
All right, John Fortner, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys in the Super Bowl. That's all good, man. It's all good.
But by the way, the Bengals, I'd love to see, you know, them win. Of course, Tim. Who are you going for, Tim? I'm not sure.
So I'm not sure, but I think you can read it there on the board. The Chiefs, obviously.
So who do you want to see win this weekend? Put that in chat. Whether you're watching this Facebook and YouTube, and let's have a fun weekend. This is a wrap, everybody.
All right. You're awesome, Tim. Go Birds.
Thank you. See ya. Thanks.
Go Niners.